The world of woke.
The world has gone a bit mad. Trevor Kavanagh's here. Trevor, very nice to see you.
Hi, Mike.
You don't mind if I call you Sir, do you?
Sir Trevor.
Sir Trevor.
That sounds rather good.
It's about time, isn't it? I suppose you've missed out so far.
I certainly don't want a peerage.
No. Well, maybe they'll have done away with the House of Lords by the time they get round to giving one to me, but we shall see. Prime Minister's questions today, Deputy Prime Minister's questions, I suppose. Oliver Dowden, with a slight cloud over him over the announcement that he had set up this rather odd misinformation unit inside Number 10, which I'm told has now been done away with. But I was slightly surprised to learn that I may have been under surveillance by it.
Well, I think congratulations are in order in that case. I think if you know that you're causing enough waves to interest the government, then
powers
you're
that be
doing your job very well indeed.
Yes, I think so. So how do we get along today? Angela Rayner's always quite a lively, entertaining kind of addition to this, I always think. She's more entertaining than Keir Starmer in many ways.
Yes, I think that Angela has a certain presence on camera, physical and also what she has to say and ask questions about.
Right.
She has a certain beliefs which I think Keir Starmer have eluded him.
Yes.
But you know where Angela's coming from, and it's coming with all fists flailing.
And she's quite happy to put it all out there, isn't she? She doesn't care what people think of her, it seems. She doesn't mind whether people criticise her for her manner. I think she'd make a much better leader, actually, than him.
Yes, I think far from being abashed about her manner, I think that she sees and is well aware of the fact that it works extremely well. People like Angela Rayner, whatever they think about her politics.
Right, I think that's right. So let's have a look at the first little clip we've got for you. This is Angela Rayner asking a question about COVID.
So let me ask you, Mr. Speaker, he acts like it pretends that it's complicated, but it's simple. They set up the inquiry to get to the truth, then blocked that inquiry from getting the information that it asked for, and now they're taking it to court. I know he considers himself a man of the people, so using his vast knowledge of working-class Britain, does he think working people will thank him for spending hundreds of thousands of pounds of their money on loophole lawyers just so that the government can obstruct the COVID inquiry?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, we will provide the inquiry with each and every document related to COVID, including all internal discussions in any form as requested, while crucially protecting what is wholly and unambiguously irrelevant. Because essentially, the Right Honourable Lady is calling for years' worth of documents and messages between named individuals to be in scope. And that, Mr. Speaker, could cover anything from civil servants' medical conditions to intimate details about their families. But I really will say to the Right Honourable Lady, I find it extraordinary that she should lecture us on value for money for the taxpayer, when I understand she has now purchased 2 pairs of noise-cancelling headphones on expenses. Now, I will be fair to the Right Honourable Lady. If I had to attend shadow cabinet meetings, I think I'd want to tune them out too.
That's not a bad little exchange. I mean, the headphones are always going to be haunting her now, aren't they?
Well, I think so. But, I mean, look, I think, again, she can shrug this off.
Yeah.
This is one of the charms of Angela Rayner. That it just doesn't stick, just as with Boris used to be able to get away with things other mortals couldn't.
Exactly right. And the COVID business is an Achilles heel, I think, for the government, because they are, having set up an inquiry, now suing themselves, effectively, to try and stop themselves from having to be asked for things they don't want to give up.
Indeed, and what Lady Hallett is doing is using the very broad terms of reference that were given to her by the Boris Johnson government when he set up the inquiry. She is entitled to ask for these things. The other thing, I think, is that ministers and politicians have deliberately moved away from the written testimony and evidence recording of events to WhatsApp for the very purpose of avoiding scrutiny. Because they thought that everything they put into WhatsApp would be absolutely confidential. The other problem, I think, is that there is a fishing expedition underway, and the government is entitled, I think, to guard some of its confidences, because this will leak. There's no way that...
Of course it will.
It'll get into the hands of hundreds of people, some of whom will leak it.
Yeah, and some of which will end up in The Guardian, no doubt. There was another fraud question about COVID as well.
So let me ask him about another, something else that's gone missing. The Public Accounts Committee this week revealed that the government's fraud increased fourfold, with ministers overseeing the loss of £21 billion of taxpayers' money in the last 2 years. Can he tell us how much of our money they expect to recover?
The Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we are working tirelessly to recover those funds and we have made huge progress already. But again, if the party opposite wants to talk about good use of taxpayers' money, what do we have from the party opposite? Plans for an unfunded £28 billion spending spree. And what would that do? Drive up borrowing, push up interest rates, adding £1,000 to everyone's mortgage. Mr. Speaker, I know they're out of touch, but even she must realise that Britain cannot afford Labour.
Angela Rayner.
Mr. Speaker, Britain can't afford any more of the Conservatives.
Can't afford any more of the Conservatives. Well, I mean, speaking of which, the other big story that's been running this week, I suppose, is Keir Starmer and his association with the Dale Vince Just Stop Oil donation scandal. As far as they're concerned, they're taking money from a guy who wants to give them money. But the Just Stop Oil sort of smell doesn't go away, does it?
No, I think that Just Stop Oil has got to the point where people really are seriously losing patience with it, and finally the police included. So they're beginning to arrest people and stop them blocking the traffic. I think that the problem for Keir Starmer is he's rather locked into a number of measures now, which are, now that he's prepared to make them public, are getting under closer scrutiny. And he's not coming off too well on all of these things, from woke through to Just Stop Oil. These are measures and causes that do not chime with the ordinary vote of whatever party they're in.
And it looks as though one of the reasons for his new policy on North Sea oil and gas exploration is very possibly as a result of being in receipt of the money that he got from Dale Vince. Let's have a look.
Receiving £10,000 from Just Stop Oil backers. Oh, yes. Adopting their policies, backing protesters, blocking new production and forcing us to import more foreign oil and gas. Do you know what? For once, Mr. Speaker, I find myself in agreement with the GMB union. What did they say? It's naive, lacks intellectual rigour and could decimate communities, just like Labour.
So, overall, did you think it was a win for Mr Dowden?
Well, it was, actually. I think he absolutely skewered them on that one. 28 billion declared. I mean, this is not something that's just rumoured. We now know that it would be 28 billion every year, which is a hell of a lot of money for taxpayers to fund. And for what is really a dubious cause. Nobody knows for sure whether any of this money is going to be any more wisely spent than the tens of billions squandered during COVID, which is a slightly different pressurised situation.
Of course. I mean, we've been told by endless numbers of politicians that there's a new green economy out there and there are new green jobs to be had, but we've never actually seen any. I mean, despite all of this wind energy and offshore, onshore arguments, you know, there's nobody seemingly being employed by any of this, isn't there?
No, and not just here in England, but across the European Union and in America, where they're finding that unless, for instance, you take shale oil, which I think is a very good move, but on the green environmental stuff, Germany's abandoned most of it, and I think France is doing the same.
It is a shocking state of affairs. Trevor, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Trevor Kavanagh there with his take on Prime Minister's questions, in this case, Deputy Prime Minister's questions. A win for Oliver Dowden. Angela Rayner must try harder. This is Talk TV.